This broadcast is the property of Codependence Anonymous. Reproduction without written permission from Codependence Anonymous is not permitted.
Hi, I'm Genevieve, or Jen for short, and I'm codependent, and I'm glad to be here, and I am Jim V's liaison, so I'm introducing him. Welcome to this awesome special workshop, and Jim V has been with CoDA for how long?
34 years.
34 years. So we have some experience here. And, of course, how many in here like to dance? Like to dance. Is that why you came? Is that why you came to this, the Discovery Waltz? Yes. Great. And so I did get to be a rockette for a day. You can all do that, too. It was the best $85 I ever spent at Radio City. Here's Jim, and let's welcome him. And
Oh, thank you. I don't think you could shut the doors in the back then. All right. So, welcome to the Recovery Waltz Workshop, 3 Steps to Sane Living. You know, a waltz is a 3-step dance, and we'll be looking at steps 1, 2, and 3 in our dance to resolve current issues in our lives. So I have several experiential workshops, exercises that we're going to do. I'll be needing some volunteers, especially those people in the front row. And if you want to volunteer, I could handle people who can do improv a little bit, because try to put a little humor in an otherwise serious subject. Problem? Oh, hold on. No, just letting people know that it's coming. Foreboding or something, I don't know. Anyways, so I have some guidelines. Sorry, I missed a slide. There we go, guidelines. So experiential workshops, not like your meeting, so there'll be, I'm hoping for some feedback and some two-way communication in here. So please share your experience, strength, and hope through the workshop. I also, if you take a chance to be vulnerable with some of the people in the group, you might have a better experience in this workshop. And I have a lot of information to cover. Some of the stuff in the pamphlet and the handout I'm not going to cover in the workshop. Other stuff on the screen is, so some of it's available to you, some of it you're going to have to look. I'm not covering everything. There's just like 25% too much. So I'm going to have to go through, and I absolutely want to save at least 10 minutes at the end for open sharing in the workshop. If you see the QR code on the front here, they asked us to put on a QR code. That will take you to a Google Drive that has all the files on. So I think I made 40 copies. So if we don't have enough in the room, we could share them. And if you want copies later on, you could by all means download them after the workshop. So with that being said, first exercise, it's called, oh, go ahead. Oh, yeah. I have a lot of that in there. Maybe too much. I took it down a lot, actually, from where it was. So first exercise, if you have a sheet of paper, I have a couple of extra copies here. I don't have a lot, but it's called What's Bugging You? Basically want to have you, oh, you can't get in? Okay. So what I'm asking for is 4 rows per problem. Go ahead. No. It was just working yesterday. I'm going to have to fix it. I don't know that I can fix it at this time, but if it becomes an issue, I'll give it a shot. Okay. So it was just working yesterday. Anyways, so 4 rows per issue, with the first one being your problem. You have a question? So any problem, big, small, doesn't really matter, just whatever's going on in your life. We're going to leave the other 3 rows blank for now. So I just want you to define your problem on step 1, on the first sheet. And as you're doing that, I'm going to go on to the next slide because I kind of group these problems by my own misery index here. So I find that a lot of people come into recovery, after a failed relationship or alcoholism or a narcissistic relationship. I'm going to say like 50%. That's my own gauge. Come in. Oh, you got something? Going behind the curtain. Oh. I think it's on now. All right. Thank you very much. So I was saying a lot of people come into recovery. Uh-oh, more questions.
You want us to list the problem that brought us into CoDA?
Whatever's on your issues now, whatever's going on. If you want to do an old issue, new issue, doesn't really matter. Pardon? Yeah, one per row. Yeah. So whatever's going on in your life, big or small, whatever you want to address. Hopefully by the end of this workshop, we'll be able to give you some tools to handle life when it shows up. So we're going to start with some existing issues, and we'll go from there. Hopefully we'll get some closure on some of those. But as I was saying, I think about half the people coming into CoDA, again, my own misery index, are people who come in after a relationship, I know I did, or somehow alcoholism of some sort. Thank you much. And I think about a third of the people who come in are actually come from another fellowship, like a NA or an AA group that, once the symptom of drinking is done or they have it managed to some level, they find out the real problem is codependency that's underneath it. So I think these first two categories are a lot of the big problems in recovery, in codependency. But, we got work stuff. They say if you need 10 people to do a job, just hire 2 or 3 real good codependents. So we all kind of work a little bit. Bereavement could be, loss of somebody or a bad diagnosis, whatever. Those things come up. They're real. Haunting past, yes. We got this one down here. We're both fear of failing and fear of succeeding. So we have it on both ends. And then we have the normal relationship stuff, finances, problems with the next door neighbor, whatever they are. So those were my general categories, just for reference. Oh. All right. So if a problem comes up for you during this and you want to add more to your list, great. We're going to, like I said, we're going to refer to them every so often. Yep.
I'm still confused.
Oh,
Are we
shoot.
supposed to put a problem at the top of each row?
Yep.
4 problems then.
No. The first. Oh, sorry. Correct. Here, you want that?
Yes. Okay, so it is 4 problems.
Well, as many as you have or need, or. So
Okay,
the
all right.
problem that you have, go there, and then we're going to fill these other 3 rows in as we go.
Thank you.
All right. And that was the easy part. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm Katie. I asked lots of questions. I'm sorry. I don't understand either one.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, if you don't understand what you're doing, let me grab one of those sheets. Can I borrow yours just for a moment? So each problem I have 4 rows for each problem. The first one really is the problem. Oh, you got ahead. She got ahead. Ignore those other rows. So on the very first row, say, I got a problem. My wife drinks too much or something. So then your second problem would go in the second area. So 1 problem per 4 rows. Yeah, leave space for 3 more entries. Go ahead.
So each one is a different problem.
Correct.
And so I don't have to leave the lines open.
No, we're going to fill in these other rows as we go on. Yeah, here you go. This is a good example. Correct. Oh, let me give yours back. That's yours, right? Oh. All right. Any other questions, confusion on this item? So just to go over it one more time, on the first row of your sheet, you put whatever the problem is you may have. Can't stop my wife from drinking. She's drinking and driving with the children, whatever. We're going to fill in these other rows as the workshop continues. So it'll be something different here, something different here, something different there. So it's four rows. Sorry, I couldn't have made that clearer. All right, thank you. All right, we're up to what does codependency look like? So if you go on the web and you search 100 places and try to get a definition for codependency, you'll probably get 200 definitions. You just can't put necessarily one definition to it. However, I think CoDA.org does a pretty good job. Codependence is a disease that deteriorates the souls. That speaks a lot. I know for me, that's pretty much what it was. I was left a shell of a man for the most part, but stunned by spiritual growth, almost disabilitating. I felt like I couldn't do much more beyond survive my marriage. And I'm going to talk more about that in a minute, but I thought we did a good job on this one for CoDA.org. So, we're going to do a little bit of Jim's story. So, for me, this is before recovery. I graduated high school at the end of the 70s. I was burning the candle at both ends. It was, sex and drugs and rock and roll. I was just flying through life. Oh, wait, one more. I was a punk rocker. I was out there. We were doing all kinds of stuff. It was partying left and right all over the place. So, I was smart enough to know that I didn't want to attend college after high school because I pretty much knew I was going to fail out if I did. I mean, I'm a very smart guy. I design computer chips for a living, so I knew I had the smarts to do things. I just knew I wasn't ready. So I decided what I learned later on in life that I was taking a gap year, mostly to explore pharmaceuticals. Now up to this point, I had one real relationship in my life that lasted more than 6 months, and she really broke my heart in the way that it ended. And I pretty much knew that I didn't want to feel that again. So my solution to that was to never get in another relationship. I went on dates, but I never dated anyone more than 3 times. That was my limit. So it was my protection, a way of not hurting myself, was to put a boundary up that maybe not be so healthy anymore, but it was the only thing I could do at the time. So then I had the 4th date. So now I need a crazy alcoholic wife. I need someone to play a crazy alcoholic wife. Can I get that? Can I get that from the audience? Oh, come on up. All right. All right. This is Cindy, but we're going to call her Sandy for the role, just because that was her name. Oh, yeah, we're going to go over there, I think, a little bit. So, Sandy and I, we had our bottle. We were partying. Let's go over here.
That's my friend. That's my friend.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. So we were traveling. We were going all over the place. Hey, Ramones are playing in the city. Let's go. What do you think? Right. We'd be going to the city, coming back. But, there was this thing about putting it down when you were done, and moving on to the next thing. But there was always the next thing coming. So let's grab the bottle again. So, it was this dance. It was, how much do you put the bottle down? How much does it become part of your life? For the most part. Anyways, we were about a year plus into the relationship, and I found I had to ask her a very important thing. Why are you getting so fat? She was pregnant. I didn't know. She was getting fat. I'm saying, this is the point I could detect. Did I lose this? this is the point I detected when I knew my codependency really turned on. Because I was like, what the heck are you doing all those drugs for and drinking? And I was really upset with her. That was the moment I felt a change in my life. Where, I love you. That was the point I detected that I really had a change in my life. And it was, you know, I mean, we were both, neither one of us were mature adults. Neither one of us were ready for kids. But there we were. And she was, you know, obviously not being forthcoming. I had to figure it out myself. You know, when I was pretty pregnant. I mean, she was pretty pregnant by that point. So, what happened? So, she started getting the bottle all the time. She couldn't put it down. She had it. I'm watching out. I'm trying to protect my kids, my family. She's holding onto the bottle. I'm looking for it. I'm checking for it. Coming back. I'll come back here. Hey, give me a kiss, honey. No, see, it doesn't work. There's no affection going on here. There's always a bottle in the way. Now, to her credit, she would try to put the bottle down. Let's put it down. And she would go maybe months sometimes without a drink. But right here, this is as close as we got. We never were able to get any closer than this because she was a dry drunk. She wasn't recovering. And, you know, her behaviors or our behaviors never changed. So finally, she finally moved out for the last time. And you can sit down now. Yeah. No, we had 2 kids all together. This was a 7-year process. But she had moved out a few times along the way, but she always came back after a day or two. It was more like, this is Trooper Ross side. We have your wife. She's in the jail. Could you come down and get your kids as well? Or someone would call from the bar, hey, we're at Flanagan's. You know, your wife really doesn't belong here. Can you come down and get her? Or, you know, Trooper Ross side again. Oh, your car's smashed. You know, no one's hurt, but, you know, you're going to have to come down and get your wife and kids. So it was a continuous thing where there was a floor that kept getting lower and lower and lower and lower and lower, you know, through our relationship. But it was something that she just couldn't put down ever. And when she left, you know, she was providing the daycare for the kids, and so she had the kids, and I was single, alone at that time, and of course I always thought there was an answer to everything. You know, if Plan A didn't work, try Plan B. Plan B, C, C, D. So, you know, my last effort then was try marital counseling again. I mean, we tried it like a half a dozen times, but only once. She'd only ever go once. So we go for this last time of counseling, and the lady sees her for 15 minutes, me for 15 minutes, puts us together. She says, you know, you both need a lot of work. I can't give you marital counseling at this time. You both need to work on yourselves for a while, for a year, before I could even think about bringing you back. And I remember being relatively upset. What are you talking about? My life's falling apart. And you're refusing me health care. She's like, no, I'm not refusing you health care. I'm trying to give you the health care you need. Of course, I didn't really buy that at the time because I really still didn't think there was a lot wrong with me. I mean, I knew she was screwed up, just not me. Anyways, that was what codependency looked like, you know, how it developed for me. And especially I was also worried about my children. We had 2 kids at the time. They were 3 and 6 at the time. My son was the hero of the family. So I'm sure that he always tried to be a perfectionist. Anyone else a hero out there? How did that feel? Perfectionism? Impossible. My other daughter, she, you know, she was always underneath the bright light of my son. She was kind of the lost child. Any lost children out there? How did that feel? Lonely, mixed. So, you know, all this stuff, you know, affects us and our children. So at the time I didn't know there was that kind of a problem with my kids, and I didn't even think I had a problem, to be honest with you. So let me go on. So what happened, we had, I was of the mind when she left that she was going to die without me. I had all kinds of fears. I was very enmeshed in her life. I could remember waking up and saying, how are we feeling today? Not how are you feeling or how am I feeling, how are we feeling? That's how enmeshed I was in her life. So it was I always gave her one more chance, and I just ripped into my self-esteem thinking that, she just can't do it again. Not again. I got to be able to trust her. She's my wife. It was one thing after another. And then after all that, it was just a ton of resentments because all the stuff that I was doing for her and she was doing nothing in return for me. So that's what codependency looked like for me. Anyone can relate? I got you there. All right. Well, I have another scenario. And then, now what does this look like with a narcissist? So, codependence and narcissist personality seem to fit together like a hand in glove. There seems to be a dance there that is driven by dysfunctional compatibility. I don't get it. They seem to be able to find out each other, and they just seem to intuitively know, where it goes. I've felt so many people come into recovery with almost the exact same story. The narcissist prioritizes power and sacrifices the relationship to get it. Codependent prioritizes the relationship, sacrifices themselves to keep it. So those are the basic. When you have a narcissistic parent, they imagine they're the king or queen of the family. So it's not about the family, it's about them being the king or queen. The children are often raised with excessive criticism, unrealistic expectations, inadequacy, and they typically grow up insecure and codependent. So it wouldn't surprise me if there was more than one in here that was raised by a narcissistic parent. So for this one, I have another exercise. Now I need a man that could play the narcissist. Hey, we got one. Let's give him a hand. Wow. Look at this guy. Do you see, is this a custom shirt? I mean, this is the nicest shirt I've ever seen. Oh, and is that a Texas belt buckle or is that just a regular custom? See, narcissists, they need all kinds of praise. They need the best of everything, right?
I can do it better than anybody.
That's right. That is right. So what do you think I guess I'm saying that you are one heck of a handsome guy. I can't believe you wanted to come up here and volunteer your time. Isn't he a handsome guy? Hey! Oh, and look at that smile. Isn't that a great smile? Wait up. Yeah, this is a smile. But let's bring you over here. I'm going to move the booze bottle. Come on back. So we'll get you behind the smile. You can hold that any way you want. Look through it, not. So that's a smile. Hold on, I got to get my notes. So if we go. So what do you think a narcissist thinks about when he's alone at home? Yeah, I got a few up here. What do you think he thinks about? What does a narcissist think about?
Everybody should love me.
They do. We do.
And I never fail.
That's right.
Because it's a conspiracy. They're all working against me. I didn't do anything wrong. It's a fact.
That's right. Any other quotes? What do you think a narcissist thinks about himself? Never wrong. Yep, never wrong.
It's all about me.
All about me, absolutely. So I have a story. I had a friend in recovery, and I used to always plan the events a lot. Hey, we're going to go to Chinese food and then the movie on Saturday. Whoever wants to come. So one particular night at the Chinese theater, at the Chinese dinner, I opened up my fortune cookie, and it says, "You are the greatest person in the world." I didn't even get through the whole thing. He went, "Oh, that's mine." He gives me his fortune. then every time I went to his house, it was pasted on his refrigerator. You know, that was the kind of, I thought it was funny at the time. I didn't totally get the whole scope of it, but I thought it was funny. Anyways, we now need the female lead. Who wants to play? Oh, we got one here. All right. So you guys know each other. As a, you could use your stage names. So how does this start? I need you over this side. Why don't you stand there? One on one side, one on the other. Come over here. So relationship, you're projecting the smile towards her. There you go. You got it now. So the first stage starts at a love bombing. It's really how wonderful. Go ahead, start your love bombing. I
can't live without you. You know, after just 3 hours, I knew that we were meant to be together. You are my soulmate.
Soulmate, you got him. He's got him. He's not even looking at him. Oh, and
I do bring you flowers every day.
and 30-day anniversary.
Here's this 2-carat diamond ring after a month of dating.
Thank you, thank you.
So as the relationship continues and he starts pulling her in, now she's starting to come in. Now she's holding on to this. They're holding on. Oh, he's wheeling her in. Now we're at a point in the relationship where he's got her, right? So what happens next? I'll tell you what happens next. This goes this way. Now the smile goes towards him, and she's holding on to the smile. Now she's like his foil. She has to now prove daily, hourly, every minute, how great he is, what's going on with him. You got to do something.
Okay,
you just can't stand there.
I'm so glad you're with me. Don't ever be so lonely and unhappy. And I like how you look. I like how you smell. You're just so wonderful. I can't believe I found you.
I know I'm your everything.
Woohoo! So once the love bombing stops, and the stage, we start getting into now more of a narcissists stage, where the first thing that has to occur is some isolation, right? We need now to isolate her from her family, her friends. Hey, I can't believe you enjoy doing this, right? What's the other one I liked? We shouldn't spend as much time with your family because they don't seem to like me. Or, your friends are strange. How about other ones? You ever hear them? How did we separate you? What would a narcissist say to separate you from your family?
They don't love you like
They don't love you like I do, yeah.
They don't love you like I do.
That's right. So this starts going on where she's getting pulled back a little, and she's getting isolated from everybody. And her whole job now is to become just to keep the smile on him, right? So now he's looking over there. Now what are you going to do? What are you going to do now? Well, you better get over there because he's looking over there, right?
Oh, yes, over here.
Hey, well, now you got to do more. You just can't stand there. You got to really
I want you.
So it gets caught in a loop. Well, now he's looking up there. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? So,
Just don't leave. Don't leave me.
She'll die without you.
yeah, throw him out there. That's it.
So, yes, yeah, please. You're my one and only. My only thing.
All right.
I don't want anyone
Thank you very much. Thank you. So the narcissist has lots of tricks, the guilting people in, of course the devaluation and isolation. They're all self-serving and a lot of justification, in that. So it is really, I've heard it makes you feel crazy, right? Like you're being monitored, isolated, and at some point I hear that you feel like you're crazy. You can't set a boundary. It's a tough play. Then the third stage comes, which is typically the discard stage. I don't have any quotes for this because I didn't hear any or couldn't find any, but it seems to be often very evil, or it's when the narcissist finally says, "Hey, I need to move on. I'm not getting enough from you, or what I need, or I found somebody else," right? So third stage, discard, and then I like the fourth stage after the Hoover vacuum cleaner. Every once in a while, just try to pull you right back in, just because they can. They might need more validation. The same person I talked about, the fortune cookie, he used to share a lot with me about, how belty fat about the relationship, and he seemed very genuine, how he was. I later found out when he said, "You don't understand, she left me." And I'm thinking, she left you and you're mad, you're trying to get back together so you could break up with her? He wanted to be the one that left the relationship. He was more upset, I think, that he didn't end the relationship than she did. So,
Is there a time of how long a narcissist generally?
well, they do say the first stage is very quick. 30 days, very, very quick. And then this could go on as long, it goes on, some people, a very, very long time.
Depends how codependent the other partner is.
Yeah, exactly. Goes on.
Love addiction, love avoidance,
Yep.
gaslighting, stonewalling. Yep.
Absolutely.
I really never left them.
So, how does it really look? Like you said, we got pleasing, overriding, waiving your rights, no boundaries, excitement over safety, relentless efforting. The codependent wants to avoid conflict and avoid abandonment. So it's very serious. It's a very serious thing, and it seems very hard to get out of the people who are in that role. And then if it happens to be a parent that's the narcissist, children often end up with a lot of low self-esteem, feelings of inadequacy. It seems like a lot of them, when they grow up, they connect with narcissistic partners. It seems to be a recipe for it. And I don't know if that's the thing that sorts them out, but that is... anyone grow up with a narcissistic parent? Go ahead. What was that like? Both parents? Could you give a word to it? Can you give one word to it?
Give one word.
Yeah. How did it feel?
Self-abandoned.
Self-abandoned, yep. Anyone else? Go ahead.
My mother has narcissistic tendencies. I like to say that rather than the narcissist. But a lot of gaslighting makes me question my reality. Abuse.
Yep, absolutely.
Neglect and abandonment.
Yep, absolutely.
Inadequate.
Absolutely inadequate. So, the next slide is, when to leave a narcissistic partner. Well, if you're being physically abused, that's the time to get out of any relationship. Or you're being sexually abused or coerced, have thoughts of self-harm. I'm bringing this to your attention because, there's people in here that have gone through that, and I'm sure could support you if you're in that kind of state. And if you need some help, I think they'd be glad to share their experience, strength, and hope. And I'm just going to ask you if there's anybody out there who would be willing to share their experience, strength, and hope on this in case there's somebody in here who might need some help with that. If you wouldn't mind standing up or raising your hand so maybe someone can take a look. So if you're having some struggles, we have a couple volunteers. By all means, after the workshop, please, they're there to help. And the only way to escape is to run away as fast as you can. Nothing ever changes. Things just get worse. And I love this one, defending oneself against a shark. So, oh, sure.
So I got introduced to a woman who I'm assuming her husband is narcissistic, but she has children. And so she could leave. They're teenagers, couple of them have already graduated, but they're still 16-year-olds in the home. so a couple of them wanted to stay. 16-year-old to finish high school. She felt she was confused as to whether to go back, but it was very abusive.
Oh, yeah. That's a bad situation. Don't have an answer for that one. Anyways, moving on. What do both of these situations have in common? Unmanageability. Causes a lot of unmanageability in our lives. Taking a look at these, breaking promises to yourselves, try to control the uncontrollable. So the next item on our sheet, the second row, is about unmanageability. So for that problem that you got, is there some unmanageability going on in your life? So you could fill in on that second row anything that you think, whether you're doing it or whatever's going on that's unmanageable for you in your life. So that second row in that worksheet would be for the unmanageability. For me, I was looking for the hidden liquor bottles in the house. I'd sometimes try to see if she was breathing, just smell if she had alcohol on her breath. I was always in fear she wasn't coming home because many times she'd say, I got to run and get a can of beans at the store for dinner and then not come home. Sometimes she came home, but there was times she didn't. Go ahead. Oh, sure. So I'm going to let you keep going and try to get back some of the time I lost. I'm going to just keep moving on a little bit. But where I left my story, it was went to the therapist and they said, hey, go work on yourself for a year pretty much. So I set out to prove them wrong. So I made an appointment with a therapist, not a therapist in that office, a whole other office. I had to get a different therapist. I wasn't going back there again. But it took me to a therapist, sat down, felt pretty good about it actually. I thought, 3-4 sessions, I should have this taken care of pretty much. So first question she asked was, how are you feeling today? And I started going off. I was telling her about all the things my wife was doing to me. And I just kept rolling and rolling and rolling. I kept going on and on and on. It sounded like a speaker meeting of some sort. But after about 10 minutes, she stopped me and she goes, excuse me, Jim. She goes, I asked how you were doing. You spent the last 10 minutes trying to convince me your wife was crazy. Boom. That was an awareness for me. I thought, maybe there is something wrong with me. She really did ask me how I was doing, and I didn't even answer the question. I wasn't even thinking about that question. That was the first time I was aware that I might have a problem. So in that session, we talked about addiction. We talked about codependency. She had a Codependent No More on the shelf. She threw it at me, said, read this for next session and get yourself to a CoDA meeting. I'm glad she was a 12-step advocate. So 1990, there wasn't a lot of CoDA meetings, so it took me a little while to find one. I did eventually find one in months. It took me months to find a CoDA meeting, but I had so many other things going on. I found meetings. They all kind of helped me out. Anyways, I was willing to take, by that time I was realizing there was something wrong and I was willing to take suggestions. I got myself a sponsor right away. He started off with 20 things. 20 things you're powerless over, 20 things that are unmanageable in your life. That was kind of my first work assignment with my sponsor. And I think that's where I started detaching from my wife. And I kind of learned at Al-Anon, and what I learned there was just picture the word sick tattooed on her head, on her forehead, and believe that everything coming from her mouth is sick. You have a choice to have it not hurt you or not. So that really was a life changer for me because I started thinking everything coming this way was coming from someone who wanted to hurt me. Why should I take it to heart? Why should I even react? The only winning move was just not to play the game. That helped me a lot. So I stopped with the things coming my way from a sick person. However, I still had that thinking that she was going to die without me. And at that time, she was living with her brother. He lived about 6 blocks away. And if I went 2 blocks out of my way to go to work, I could drive past her house and see if the car was still there. So I'd go past and I'd see, oh, you know, if the car was there, I thought, well, at least the kids are there, they're safe, you know, everyone's okay. However, on the days the car wasn't there, my whole day was a wreck. You know, we didn't have cell phones back then, so it was hard to get a hold of anyone during the day. And my whole day would go by without, you know, that was the only thought in my head. And then it was even worse if there was a strange car in the driveway. Then I'd be thinking, you know, what's going on here? So one of the days, and I'm trying to make this first step work for me, and one of the days I'm headed that way, pull the car over, and I must have said the Serenity Prayer about a dozen times. And I said, you know, I can't keep doing this to myself. You know, here's something I'm doing that's uncontrollable and unmanageable. So made a left turn. I never went past the house again, never tried to go out of my way to find her, just needed to detach. So in my first step, I started be able to fix the things that were coming in and the crazy things that I was doing to other people and to myself. I've got to catch up on my slides here. That one. Oh, I just did this. So step one, for me, there was a lot of unmanageability, getting honest with myself and believe that I actually had a problem, and acceptance and letting go. Stop arguing with a sick person. Accept that my life was going to be chaotic for some time, and I was going to have, my kids were young, I was still going to have some kind of a relationship with her until they were old enough, and and stop engaging in activities and actions that were bad for me. So, coming around, step one. Minute we are powerless over others, that our lives have become unmanageable. So to me, the spiritual principles there are honesty and acceptance. You got the big three: honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness to have this work. And since you came through that door, that shows some pretty good open-mindedness and willingness. So take some honesty to make the program work for us. I went through a whole range of emotions doing the first step, a lot of emotions. And I believe that step one is the only step that it's possible to work perfectly. None of the other ones can but I think it's possible to work step one perfectly, turning it over and letting it go. So I'm going to open up for sharing on the first step. Anyone have anything they'd like to add to this or how it's going? I got to check my time. Anyone like to share anything? Oh, go ahead.
I guess before CoDA, I would try to change people because it really was. Before CoDA, I would try really hard to change people, and I still catch myself doing that. But I say this to myself, and I to think that I work with stuff. And I've noticed that there's people in my life who make decisions that I don't think they're healthy, but I just let it be. I don't have to. They know, you don't know when you do things that aren't healthy, or that aren't healthy. But me telling them is not gonna make them change. And I understand that now a lot more than I used to.
Yeah. So, thank you. See, the microphone and such caught me a little behind, so I'm going to move on here, still try to leave some time at the end. The next one's an exercise, a connection exercise. So I'm going to ask people to try to get into groups of 2 or possibly 3 if you had to, but 2 would work best. However you want to do it. I was going to give 5 minutes, and I can let you know when 2.5 minutes are up. So the exercise is with your partner or the trio, here's a list of questions to ask each other. So they start off pretty easy, they get a little bit harder. So my question to you is, what does connection have to do with step 2? Well, I think it's everything. Step 2 is about embracing the belief that a power greater than ourselves exists, and it is possible to connect to it. A lot of people come in with thinking it's about God. It's not. The God isn't even mentioned in step 2. You might need to lose any predetermined notions of that, It's just asking you to place your hope that there's a power greater than yourself that can guide you towards a better life. Something outside yourself. It could start by making a connection with someone in the fellowship, a sponsor, others in the group. I guess I'm on. I too thought it was about God, and I'm also a recovering Catholic, so I knew God was fighting me for what I'd done. I was reaping what I sowed. So I knew there was God, I just didn't know I could tap into that. Anyways, I was kind of stuck, and I ended up with a recovery friend who I called my spiritual sponsor. But he told me one day, oh yeah, I'm going to go to Mass with my mom this Sunday for Easter. I said, what, you don't go to church every week? No, he was agnostic. He didn't go to church at all. He was just going to appease his mom. I said, well, how do you do it? And he said, well, if you remove man's rules of God on that, there's always a message there. He said he could find a message if he just removes all the noise from the whatever the sermon is. I got a lot of help. I got a lot out of that. Being able to hear the message more instead of being tainted by man's rules of God. So for me it was really seeing that step 2 was working in other people's life. I wasn't ready to take it on for myself. I wasn't even sure what God was or who that was. I was looking around, but I saw it working. I witnessed it with others. So for me, step 2 then was about knowing that there's something out there that's working for you guys. So that's kind of the first part of step 2 for me. The second half of step 2 was under... Did I miss a slide? Nope. Of course, the definition of insanity, doing the same thing, expecting different results, can manifest in many ways. Prioritize taking care of yourself. Acknowledge that you need help from other people. Doing the next right thing, whatever that was. Whatever I needed to do to recover. So the second half of step 2 was a little different for me in that oh shoot.
I just had a comment. I realized early in the program that the word sanity comes from the French word for health. And sometimes that's really helpful to me to think in terms of restoring my health or restoring healthy choices or healthy behaviors.
That's wonderful.
As opposed to dealing with the insanity thing.
Yeah. I like that a lot. I'm going to steal that from you. I'll borrow it. That sounds good. So anyways, by this time, step 1's working in my life. I'm not taking on the stuff coming my way. I'm not going out crazy on the other stage. But if you've ever been in family court, you know what insane is. So I'm here with this lady, and I'm dropping off my kids. She's like, hey, kids, nice to see you. I found it really hard to accept that. And I didn't know what I could do about it. There was nothing I could change, so I was kind of stuck. I didn't know what to do. So I had a lot of fear, sadness, worry, a lot about that. And I decided I didn't know where to go with it. So I did end up talking with my sponsor. And we were always kind of the motion, there's like a learning phase to a step and an action phase to a step. And I'm up to this point, I'm learning about step 2. So I asked him, how did you get through step 2? How did you believe there was a connection? And he said, well, I pray. And I said, well, by that time I was still willing to try anything, and I was willing to pray whatever was there. And he helped me pray. And I said, well, listen, I'm Catholic. I know lots of prayers I had to memorize. None of them seemed right. He goes, no. Because my first recovery prayer was, God, grant me the power, grant me the knowledge of your will for me and the power to carry that out. Please watch over my family and keep them safe. That was my first recovery prayer. There was nothing else I could do. And then every time my head got messed up with whatever the thing was, where they're going to drive into a telephone pole, pick them up at a bar, whatever, I was reciting that prayer pretty much to whatever was there, knowing that there was something there. But it's really funny how quick sometimes prayers get answered, because 10 days later, I get a call from my son. It was her weekend to have the kids. He calls me up and he says, "Hey, could you come get me?" And she said, "All right." So I went down and got him, and I could tell she was hiding beer bottles as I was in the house. I said, "Man, it's 9:30, you're drinking?" Well, that was apparently enough to set her off, because later on that day, it's dark by the time she's coming to the house. And I lived on a street where you had a parallel park, and these lights are shining in my window. I'm thinking, what the heck is that? I'm looking out. She was so drunk she couldn't parallel park. Two tires were on the sidewalk, and the lights are shining in. High beams are shining into my house. So I see her get out of the car doing one of these. So I called the cops, my not cellular phone, but portable phone. And as I'm running around, I got my daughter out of my 3-year-old daughter out of the back of her car and came back around. By the time I got in, the police station was only a couple of blocks away. So they were there pretty quickly, and she was out there yelling at my son, saying things that no child should ever heard. And she was just so mad because he wanted to spend time with me. That was the core of why she was so mad. And it doesn't surprise me at 6 years old that a child knows that. I remember a lady at Al-Anon saying how, when her husband came home drunk, the first thing the dog did was hide under the bed. So he knew he didn't want to be there at 9:30. She was drinking. Anyways, cops show up. I think she tried to run away. I'm not sure, but my neighbor took my kids then, and I went out to talk to the police. And I looked at her. I said, "Oh, my Sandy, you really did it this time." And she punched me right in the face. Well, the cops hauled her off. That was the day I became a single parent. So I got my kids from that day forward. I was in custody. So I'm thinking about this afterwards. I've only been praying for 10 days. That was my prayer. It was answered. I got an answer to my prayer in 10 days. Is it coincidence? Or is there really something out there that's listening? So I started having more faith at that point in my life. Wasn't 100% convinced, but had more faith that there was something out there. So insanity, the second half of step 2. So now back to your sheet. Is there anything you're doing that's insane? Or what is the insanity maybe associated with the issue? Is there anything? So my questions are always, what are you doing to yourself? What do you need to turn over to a higher power? What is there nothing you can do, but you have to give it to a higher power? What are those things? To me, that's part of the insanity when I couldn't do anything about it. Anything healthy about it, that's for sure. So I'm going to let you fill those out. I do want to go on to the next slide, and just starting to run out of time. I still got one more step to do. But step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. So the spiritual principles of step 2 to me is hope and willingness. Having some hope, that there is something, and I needed to be willing. I needed to be willing to try or to accept or change my way of thinking for that step to start working in my life. So step 2 is filled with help. Requires us to recognize that there is something out there that works. Even after observing it, mostly observing it in others for me. And there's something out there that could guide me to a better life. And I needed to start building a connection to a higher power. And then decide the next right thing to do, even if it's hard. So that's step 2 for me, and the insanity of, I'm going to let you go on the worksheets. You can add to them at any time you like. But I wanted to get through this third step, not run out of time. So the last section is on perception. Now, what do you see here? Is this an old woman or a young woman? Who says old woman? Who says a young woman? Who sees them both? Yep. So here's the chin of the older woman. Here's her mouth. Huh? And then the face of the young woman. So it's hard. I think it has to do with age. I'm not sure. But, in some things in perception, our brains are wired to see faces. I mean, that's why we see them in clouds or potatoes and such. They're kind of wired for that. So some of our perceptions are skewed. Other things we learn as we go. I have a story I want to share with you. John Quincy Adams, I think he was our 5th president. It was the early 1800s, and he had a son. He had a son named Charles Francis Adams who kept a diary, and he wrote in his diary, "Went fishing with my son today, a day wasted." So Charles' son also, his name was Brooke Adams, also kept a diary, still available to this date. Also, so it's still in existence to see. And on that same day, Brooke Adams wrote, "Went fishing with my father, the most wonderful day of my life." So there you go. 2 people in the same boat doing the same thing, totally different perspective. So I believe that recovery, the greatest gift in recovery is that change of perspective, how we see things and how we address things. So we got various types, we got all our senses over here, the visual, auditory, touch, taste, smell. So we have those things, but our personal perception more refers to our own background, how we're seeing things. For example, in the visual, we might get a cue from somebody on how when they start talking to us, whether they're lying or not, or so there's things that we bring into any conversation or any in all of our thinking in lives. So we have a past. These are great. I think these perceptions here: pain perception, perception of self, perception of others, perception of reality. These are big ones for us to change in recovery, and since they're learned behavior, we can unlearn them or relearn them. So this is where we can shine in recovery, and of course, the perception of God in step 3. So, perception of God or any deity causes a lot of anxiety for people in any 12-step program. So I always say the first thing you do is call it what you like. Group of drunks, good orderly direction, whatever you want. My agnostic friend used to say, you could call it lampshade for all I care. Call it whatever you want. It doesn't matter to him. But step 3, there's a subtle difference between steps 2 and 3 in that step 2 has you believe that there's something out there, and step 3 is asking you to accept that. That's the subtle difference. There's something out there. Step 3 says, I believe that could help me. So as long as you can accept there's something out there and you can believe it, you can work step 3. And this, I think, will cause your, something on my thing, will cause some of the greatest, change of perception of God for me was gigantic. I mean, I came in from a smiting God to a loving, caring God. So, and then the other one is, the perception of self. We have all these things. We've probably had meetings on most of these at some point in our lives. For me, one of the first things my sponsor said to me was, we got to work on your PMA. What's that? Positive mental attitude. I was walking all the time, was like, oh, she did this to me. Oh, she did that. If I wake up in the morning and I come up with the attitude that it's going to be a bad day, it's going to be a bad day. There's no unchanging that. If I change my positive mental attitude, focus on something positive, I have every chance of having a wonderful day every day, even under the worst of conditions. And how I changed that a lot was a lot of gratitude lists. I think my sponsor had me with 6, 7 gratitude lists my first year. Seemed to always be doing a gratitude list, just to be grateful for the good little things in my life, allow that positive energy to change. Nowadays, my wife hates it. I wake up in the shower singing, I'm just on top of the world. Now, she claims to wake up neutral. I don't think so. But she needs a few minutes and a couple cups of coffee before she's ready to go on. Man, I hit the ground running in the morning. So we have all these perceptions of self that change. I'm going to... I'm now going to refer to, this is patterns of codependency. This is a CoDA item. If you're on the web, you could find, if you go on the CoDA.org and type patterns of codependence, it'll come up. There's a lot of things in this patterns that are perceptions that change. I'm going to put some of them up, but if you want to look, you can use this QR code, or you can just do CoDA.org and then look for patterns of codependence. But for that last row, and here might be one example for me. Problem, she won't stop drinking, it's tearing our family apart, putting our family in harm's way, unmanageability, checking time up to check up on her, looking for hidden bottles. She's not where she said she'd be. I fear she's driving drunk with the kids. Insanity. Can you just trust that she'll do the next right thing, but she doesn't? I wake up every day wondering if she will drink today. I'm walking on eggshells as not to want to upset her. Perception. I realize she's a sick person in need of treatment. I can't live in denial that my marriage is salvageable. The therapist was right. I did need a year to work on myself before pursuing a relationship with anybody. So the patterns, there's I think 4 pages of patterns. I'm going to kind of leave these on for a little bit. If you want to get them on your phone, you got the denial, low self-esteem, compliance patterns. Might be able to pick one out. So we go ahead. Oh, sure. Oh, yeah, went too far. Back one? Oh, okay. Well, that was the what I was showing was the so if you scan this QR code, you'll get these. You'll get these. I'm going to go on to the next ones. Oh, the QR code. Let me go back. Why is it going back? There we go. I thought I had it in the book, in the handout.
Oh, it's in the handout?
The QR code. No, I had this one too, the patterns. I thought it was in there. Okay. Ah, no problem. So avoidant patterns, control patterns. So I hope you got at least 1 or 2 spiritual thoughts on how we want to change whatever the issue that you got going on. I'm going to go on. So I say the greatest gift in recovery is the change in perception. I said it before. Perception is partially observed and partially learned, and any learned behavior can be changed. And actually, for me, some behaviors needed to be learned the first time. So Jim's story, step 3. I'm now a single parent, and starting to really appreciate how much effort that took. I had no idea. I had to go to court to have her supervise visitations. So after the fiasco with driving with my daughter that last time, it took several months to get to court. Anyways, when we got to court, and she wasn't following through on any of the court order things, she had to go for analysis and the such, and she wasn't going for any of those things. And finally in court, she said, "Hey, if you want," I asked basically for her mom to supervise her visitations. Her mom only lived 2 blocks away. I trusted her, so didn't want no court-appointed person. I just wanted the kids to be safe. And she basically said, "Well, if my mom's got to supervise me, then I don't even want to see them." And then the appointed attorney said, "Hey, if you like, I could write the order out that way." And she just walked out of the room. So it wasn't written that way. It was written she could see the kids. But that was one actually promise she kept. She probably went almost a whole year without seeing them but twice. And I think there was just birthday parties that my kids went up to their grandma's house on their birthdays, and she was there. So there was never anything planned. But the 2 days after that, I'm taking the kids to daycare. I go out to the door, the car's stolen. The car's not there. Son of a gun. So daycare was close enough. I walked them. On the way back, it's ruminating in my head. I'm just so upset with her. And I'm thinking also, up to this point, recovery, it hasn't gotten any easier for me. It just seems to keep getting harder and harder. I'm thinking, where's the payoff in this recovery? My life isn't getting any more safe. What's going on here? And I really, I was having a lot of conflict up there in my head. I thought the sweet taste of quick revenge was a lot better than letting it go. Anyways, I went to file a police report, and the police says, well, do you know who you think stole it? I said, it was probably my ex-wife. He goes, oh, you're divorced? Oh, no, we're getting divorced. Well, then you don't have a stolen car. I said, no, it's in my name. He goes, no, that's up to a judge. He goes, it's doesn't actually look, because you could do whatever you want to your car. It doesn't necessarily mean you could file an insurance claim. I'm thinking, oh, what's going on? And then he goes, oh, it's even worse. He goes, she can move back in the house, call us up, tell us you're beating her, and we'll drag your ass to jail, and she'll probably get the custody of the kids and the house. And I'm thinking, by that time I was going ballistic. I was seeing red. I was like, what the heck am I doing? I don't know what to do next. So call up my sponsor. Again, he had to call me back because we didn't have cell phones back then. But finally calls me back, and he's trying to talk me down. And he says, we've been working on step 3 for some time. He goes, why don't we give this one thing to God just to see what happens? Up to this point, I knew there was God. I wasn't necessarily ready to do that, but I thought, it was almost like, God, if you're out there and you're willing to help me, please take this situation away from me. I was making an effort to try to do a third step. And later on that day, they found my car. It was at the top of a 100-foot cliff. They tried to jump it into a quarry, and it got stuck on the top. I was able to file an insurance claim right away. I got enough money to pay off the car, buy a good used car, $1,500 in my pocket. No longer had a car payment. Before that, I had to borrow parent money from my parents just to pay for daycare. So all the problems went away. It was like I was so pissed, and then all of a sudden everything was cleared up in 24 hours for me. So when I share my story, I always share, I didn't work the third step. The third step worked me. So it's a matter of, putting that trust out there and faith. So, making a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God. I think it's about faith and trust. Whatever God is for you, the make a decision part, it's a little tricky in that, say if there's three frogs on a log in a pond, and one makes a decision to jump in, how many are left? Yeah, because he only made the decision to jump in. He didn't jump in yet. Sometimes it takes that event or whatever to do that action part of the step, to jump in, with making that decision and do that application phase of the step in your life. So, last slide, and if we have time. So, the Blue Danube, the Waltz. So, we're going to try something a little scary, I think. So I'm going to ask if we can all stand up. Now, we're gonna do a little sing and possibly a dance if you're up for it. But the recovery waltz that we're going to do is this side of the room is going to have sing steps 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Got it? Steps 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This side of the room, and you can pick him or her for your higher power, but it's let's let him, her. whatever. So your line is, I can't, God can, let's let him or let's let her. So let's try it. I can, God can. You don't have to do the or her. Let's see if this is going to work.
Let's let them.
Come on. It worked earlier today. Oh, maybe it's... Oh, come on. This was the funnest part. Oh. Hold on. I'm going to put my mic there as soon as I get it back to the beginning. I can, God can, let's let him. Steps 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. One. So if you ever need a visual of what you need to do, think of this moment. Steps 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you, everybody. If there's time, what time? How much time do we have? Do we have any time? 5 minutes. 5 minutes for sharing. Anyone want to share? Oh, thank you all.